Just when America has reached a breaking point with division, visionary influencer Danni Benson's I'm Proud of You Sis bro movement taps into the pulse and heartbeat of a culture radically torn. But this loving mom's voice of reason and calm has received national recognition.
How'd you balance having your children and always traveling with the Yankee organization?
When I became a dad, I said that I would always love like a mother.
I feel like I have to try certain things or act a different way because I know some people or some kids.
So join Danni Benson as she celebrates her special guests on her show and highlights their gifts and contributions to our world.
Hi everyone, my name is Danni Benson and I am host of I'm Proud of You Sis. Thank you for coming and watching my show. Please like, share, follow, comment. And if you know any great person in your life or in your community that you want me to give them their flowers or their cigars, please make sure you connect with me at Danni _Benson on Instagram. DM me and I would love to meet them and speak to them and definitely have them on the show to talk about their life journey. Today I have Shemekka Harty here. May is Lupus Awareness Month. Shemekka is a motivational speaker and so much more other things. She's a mom, she's a wife, and she obviously has lupus. And sometimes, like, when I always think that my world is not where I want it to be, I think of people that are going through worse situations, and I'm inspired by their motivation and their courage to push through, because I sometimes think that it's so much easier to sometimes just give up or just not do anything, like just wallow in your sorrows. But this girl is not wallowing in her sorrows. She decided to make a decision to be intentional against her fight with lupus and other autoimmune diseases that she will be discussing on the show that she battles with also. But I am so proud of her, sis. I wanted to give her flowers, and I wanted to put a light on lupus because I know so many people personally that are going through the struggle personally. And I know how hard it is because it's not something that you could control. So you don't know when you're going to get your next flare up. So it's not something that's planned. So I commend anyone who has an autoimmune disease, and I commend their strength and their courage, because I know it's not easy. Meaning that I don't know personally it's not easy, but in my mind, I can't even imagine me having to actually battle that if I did have it. So everyone, please welcome Shemekka Harty to the show.
Hi, Danni.
Hi, how are you? So we've talked, and I know people, I have several friends of mine that do have lupus, and it's a constant struggle for them every single day. And I wanted to hear your story because you are a motivational speaker. You do go out there and encourage people who have lupus to keep the fight going. And I wanted to know, first of all, where did you find that courage? Because sometimes you could feel, woe is me, and you just want to give up. Where did your fight begin?
Thank you. My fight began actually when my mother and my grandmother were sick. I say were because they're no longer with us. So at 10 years old, it became, you know what, you're not 10 years old. You have to be 20 years old. You have to be 30 years old. We need you. My mother had lupus. She figured that she had something when she had me. And if you know anything about lupus, it takes about 6 to 7 years for a diagnosis. So after she had my brother is really when it kicked in full force. And my grandmother had severe rheumatoid arthritis, and she was bedridden for the last 23 years of her life. And she was recently going through a divorce. So my mom took her in, and we're all crammed in this house. So it's me, my brother, and my mom, my grandmother. and I had to help them fight. So that's where everything began for me. It wasn't just later on in life, I actually became afflicted with lupus, but it started when I was a child because I was caring for my mother who had it.
So did your mom personally tell you that one day you might have lupus, or she told you when you were old enough to understand?
She didn't even know anything about it. So because I am a very inquisitive person, she said when I came out, I was just like bright-eyed and wanted to know everything. And that's just me. So I started to research in the library. I had to take her to her doctor's appointments. I was paying attention. I was taking notes. But, you know, the old school things, to be seen, not heard. So I just kept looking and looking, looking. She really didn't get into a lot of details with me. It was more so help me take care of this, take care of that. And so later on, when I started like researching, I saw that it could possibly be hereditary, especially when my grandmother had an autoimmune disease. No one talks about an autoimmune disease. The only autoimmune disease back in the 90s that people really knew about was AIDS. So it was like, what's lupus? And that's where I was just, okay, now it could possibly be hereditary. I'm trying to connect the dots behind the scenes. And the good thing for me was I could actually ask a medical professional because she had in-home dialysis. So when she would have dialysis and she's clunked out, I secretly was talking to the nurses and asking them tons of questions. But my mom was just, she wasn't one for talking about her struggles. It was just help me. And I think it's because she just didn't want to be too vulnerable with anyone.
Wow. So, okay. So when you found out that you were going to get it, what was your initial reaction that this could possibly, you could possibly be like your mom? Like, did you fall into depression, or you decided to take another route?
Great question, because it didn't really hit me in a depressive state until much after she passed away. I wanted to face things head on. So I kept like, okay, I got to get tested. I got to get tested. I got to get tested. So just later on in life, once I had my son, and I happened to have my son at an early age, I got pregnant when I was 16, as if I didn't want to make my life any more easier for myself. I just decided to make sure I'm going to follow up with a doctor, and I found out what type of test. There is no one distinct test, but there are several things that will basically tell you that you do have an autoimmune disease. So from the point that she died when I was about 21, about to be 22, I kept asking my doctor, can you please check me? Can you put that in my routine blood work? And so that's why I wasn't trying to manifest it, even though my doctors are like, you're fine. Why do you keep pushing for this? And I'm like, I'd rather know. I want to be proactive. I don't want to be reactive. Everybody else just reacts to things like, oh my God, I have cancer. Oh my God, I have this. And then it wasn't until later on when I was actually diagnosed, and it was later on in life, I was about 31. It hit me for about 5 minutes, her struggle. I sat in the car when I got the diagnosis, and I had my little pity party. And then it was just like, all right, no, not why me, try me. I knew this was going to happen. And it was kind of like PTSD, because later on I would have bouts with it where it would just come in my mind, I'm going to end up like my mom. I'm going to end up like my mom. So it became, up until just now that I turned 44, I was like, I got to make it past 44. She died when she was 44. If I can just make it past 44, I know I'm good. And throughout life, nobody understood why I was pushing so hard to do so many things. And I'm secretly in my mind, like, I just can't, no, 44. That's the magic number right now. Everything that kept happening to me happened to my mom. Oh, she needed a kidney transplant. I needed a kidney transplant. Little did anyone know that I'm sitting there in the hospital every single time thinking, I can't end up like mom. I can't end up like mom. And how stressful it was. So it would just be mini bouts throughout the years. It would never be a constant thing, because I would always talk my way out of it and be like, all right, come on. My head slapped my face. Come on, you get out of this funk. You're going to kill it. You're going to kill it.
Wow. Okay. So I'm so feeling for you, but I wanted to ask this, is there genetic testing to even find out? I know there's blood work, but is there genetic testing that you could have done earlier in life to find out if you do carry the gene, or are you going to eventually get it?
Now there is. Back then there wasn't. So I have 3 kids, 2 boys and 1 girl. I fear for my daughter. So I have worked with a lot of physicians where now there is genetic testing that you can have done. So we're in the process of that now. It wasn't available then. It is available now. It's a long process, but it's called PGX testing, and you can have that done. Now, of course, there's insurance. You need to have like a medical reason. If you just say like, oh, hey, you know, breast cancer, it happened to be in my family, that's like the same thing. Kind of like when Angelina Jolie wanted to make sure because her mother had it. It's now going to autoimmune diseases. It's not completely definitive, but they're making strides toward the right way to possibly be a more proactive approach.
But why your daughter and not your sons?
Only reason why is because, well, two reasons. One, because I haven't had anyone in my family have autoimmune diseases other than women. Now, my uncle has an autoimmune disease. That was something, that's something else. That has nothing to do with genetics. And then my daughter has the most issues with her body. It'll be something all the time. And it's almost like I'm seeing a mirror, how I saw myself as my mom and I see the things that she's going through. And I'm like, in the back of my head. And I even had to have the talk with her recently to be like, I don't want to scare you. The last thing I want is for you to have this, but I see too much of me in you. And I want, if I can do anything, knowing all the people that I know, knowing all the things, I'm going to do everything I can so that it just does not touch you, if there is any way possible.
So how is she, you know, she's your daughter. Are you like sitting there and just, and because you had, your mom didn't speak to you about it, but now that, you know, you chose a different route and you said, not why me, try me. I love that. Not why me, try me. Are you trying to instill that empowerment to your daughter?
Yes. And she definitely has that. She had told me yesterday, she started a new job. So she's in corporate and she's like, Mom, in these different offices, we can make different groups. Like you can have the Black Club, like it's a messaging system where anybody who's Black or the Asian community or whatever. And she's like, you know, I'm going to start a lupus one. And she just came out of nowhere and told me that. And I'm like, that's my girl. And she, anytime somebody says something sick, you know, they're feeling this way, or somebody says something about lupus, or they're, you know, having these weird symptoms, she's the first one to jump in there. She's the first one to know. And I told my kids a long time ago, it was traumatizing when I would walk home from school and see my mom sprout out on the floor, or my grandmother. When I come home, I see the EMTs there trying to bring her back to life. Like none of that stuff a kid should really have to see on a constant basis, or know that the EMTs know you by your first name. I mean, that's not normal. And so I said, I'm not doing that to you guys. I'm going to talk you through it. I'm going to let you know. When I'm in the hospital, I'm explaining things to them. I want them to be knowledgeable. And even if it's something that doesn't happen to them, I want them to be able to help other people, because there wasn't any support. There wasn't any documentation back then. Again, it was in the 90s. And even though people think because we're in the 2000s that we should be further along, we really aren't. I've had to actually spell out the word lupus to a nurse when I was in the hospital one time. And I'm like, it's not even that hard of a word. So that's the reality of it.
So for the audience that are watching us, what are the signs of lupus? What are the signs? And also, what is it? What parts does it affect?
Lupus affects everything. And when I say everything, everything. So there's various forms of lupus. You can actually have drug-induced lupus, neonatal lupus. You can be just born with it. There's discoid lupus, which affects the skin. The best example would be Seal. Seal has lupus. So the lesions on his face, that is a symptom. Another symptom is having a butterfly rash. Now, I never had the butterfly rash, but the butterfly rash is when you're discolored red and it almost looks like a butterfly on your face. That is not a huge thing, but most people will be like, okay, you have something wrong with your skin. Lupus nephritis, which is what I have, and that affects your kidneys. Nephritis refers to nephrology, which is the study of the kidney. Then there's also SLE, which is systemic. You cannot see it. So lupus mimics every disease. That is the hard thing about it. So when I started experiencing issues, my hands were like this. I couldn't open them. So systemic, it was just affecting everywhere. It affects my heart. I have heart issues. I have lung issues. It's actually eating away now at my lung. I only have a 46% lung capacity. It can affect your teeth. It can affect your eyesight. I have a friend who has to get shots in her eyes. So the things to look out for are just if you feel something is not right, and consistently, almost like having the flu is the biggest determinant. When you have the flu, you feel like, ugh, and sometimes your glands are swollen and you just don't know why. It's like having the flu consistently. If I'm not on steroids, which I've been on steroids the entire time that I've been diagnosed, then my body will just feel like I'm in a constant fog, and my body steroids relax you. This won't be relaxed. I'll just be in the bed and feeling like I can't breathe because my nose is clogged and my glands are swollen. So as soon as I take the steroids, everything is lifted. It masks everything. So definitely, if there's anything off with your body, always, always, always tell your doctor and ask for a full rheumatic panel. Rheumatic refers to rheumatology. So that would be the study of any autoimmune disease. So you may not have lupus. Lupus is very close to MS. Lupus is very close to Lyme's disease. And that way, the next step is there's like 3 different tests you would have to take. So something will pop up and say, all right, you have an issue. Your rheumatic panel comes back with a high ANA, and it's an antibody rate. But most people just say, oh, just test my blood. But if you don't specify you want a rheumatic panel, they're really not going to find anything. That's why I tell people, like, oh, I already have my blood work done. I was like, but did you ask for this? If you don't ask for that, and if you aren't an empowered patient, you're going to spend years trying to find out what your diagnosis is. So any listeners out there, listen to that, most importantly, if anything is off.
Well, I don't understand. Like, we're in 2024. Why aren't doctors just automatically checking for that if you're still feeling after you went to them that something is wrong? Why are they not assuming to do all these panel work just to make sure that that is not what is wrong? Like, I don't have lupus, I don't have autoimmune disease. Why are they automatically not doing that and performing those tests?
Because sometimes they're just it's a little bit on us and a little bit on them. Now, the reality is when they go to med school, they don't spend a lot of time unless you're going to specialize in autoimmune diseases and rheumatology. They only spend a little bit on everything. So they're not really diving deep into it. And they don't really know. If you go to your regular physician, he's just going to be like, oh, okay, you have a runny nose, you have this. All right, let me just, it's nothing blaring at him that you should do this, unfortunately. And it doesn't go into how much time we've spent on this earth. It has to be, you have to be educated. You have to, unfortunately. There's so many different things in the healthcare world that people just do not know. A girlfriend of mine actually just got out of the hospital yesterday, and I asked her, because she had to get, something's wrong with her kidneys. Her mother had lupus. It's not clicking with her. And I tried to tell her, I'm like, honey, I think you should have gotten this blood work done. And she's like, no, they said they tested my blood. And I looked at her lab results, and I'm like, but they didn't test for this. Well, I told them what was wrong. And I know it seems so silly that we're here, but you really do have to do it. And you have to point them. So I've done interviews with doctors where they're like, help me help you. Tell me everything. Most people are just like, this happened, help me. Well, they don't. Sometimes it may be an insurance issue, but it doesn't cost anything. Honestly, people just don't know. The doctors work for you. The doctors work for you. It's not the other way around. So if you want something done and you pay insurance, you should be able to do it.
So what is the name of the specialist that deals with autoimmune disease?
A rheumatologist.
A rheumatologist. Okay. So if
Yes.
you're feeling that the internal doctor is not finding what's wrong with you after you went after you went to see them, you got tested, you're still feeling these symptoms. They're saying you're fine, but you're not feeling fine. Then the next
Yeah.
thing you should do is actually go to a specialized doctor, which is called a rheumatologist, correct?
Yes. Now, most places will ask, did you have a referral? Why are you here? Sometimes you just can't go to a specialist, depending on what type of insurance you have. So I don't want people to be like, oh, okay, well, I made an appointment with them and they refused. No, the proper way to do this is it's an invisible illness. You got to help them. It's not something always visible. So when I express to people, I'm in so much pain and they're just looking at me and I'm like, you can't jump in my body. I have to be as descriptive as possible. So you let them know, tell your a primary physician, I am not getting anywhere. I need to see a specialist. I think this may be something where a rheumatologist may be able to. And if they say no, okay, well, then I want you to screen me for a rheumatic panel. And if something pops up, then I'll go to a rheumatologist. And a rheumatologist is going to dive in deep. They're going to look at your skin. I had a rheumatologist when I was first diagnosed look all at my body. And does this hurt when you do this? Does this hurt when you do this? They're hitting my knees. They're examining my back. They do a skin test to make sure they're not missing any little rashes that I may or may not see. Going through that. But yes, the next step is you have to take things under control into your hands and be knowledgeable. Because like I said, it takes 6 to 7 years to get a diagnosis. And when I looked back at what was happening to me, I was like, wait, I had a rash. Then I had this. Then I had this. And it wasn't something that was like back to back to back to make it easy for them to find. It was like 1 year I had this. 1 year I had this. And they're just putting out fires. They're not looking at the bigger picture. Nobody else after like the third thing happened said, oh, you may have this, until I kept pushing and saying, no, I think you need to do the test again. Can you please test me again? They're like, no, we just tested you. And I'm like, okay, the funny thing is lupus can pop up at any time. It's almost, okay, think of, most people know about HIV. When you get infected sometimes, yeah, most people have heard like it could take 6 months, a year, it'll just be dormant. And then it'll just pop up out of nowhere. Well, HIV happens to be an autoimmune disease, but that's something that you acquire from sexually transmitted disease. Lupus is not that, but it's in the same family. It could pop up at any time.
First of all, I didn't know HIV was an autoimmune disease. I thought it was something that you got through sexual encounters or through blood transfusion. So you're saying that you can get it and then your body reacts to the antibody? Like,
yes, it's an autoimmune disease. No, it's fine because my uncle actually has HIV. That's what I was saying, the one male in my family who has an autoimmune disease. It's because he had sex. And that's something different. That's the one autoimmune disease that you get as an STD. Lupus, MS, all of them, they're the same family. You see a rheumatologist when you have HIV. You see a rheumatologist when you have lupus.
Oh, I did not know that. Wow.
Yes.
And the only reason I bring up the HIV thing is because I was reading in the paper that Atlanta is now the third
high rate,
highest city with
I
the
just
most
saw that too.
Cases of HIV. And I'm going to be honest with you. Not that I thought HIV disappeared, but I didn't really think, I thought people were protecting themselves and making sure that they would not get the disease. But I realized like this kind of PG, like R-rated, I'm noticing that a lot of people are having casual sex, like, and I'm just like, wait. Are you not thinking about AIDS? So what's the difference between HIV and AIDS? Just a quick thing. Because AIDS means what? HIV means what?
Acquired immune deficiency disease. Yes. And then HIV. So full-blown AIDS is like the end. HIV is the beginning. So you get HIV, and then now my uncle's had HIV. He's like Magic Johnson. He's had it for 27 years. He's still alive and standing. People don't think it's a thing. And I found it funny when COVID was going on and I heard people dating and saying, you know, I'm vaxxed, you know, we can date now. I'm vaxxed. And I'm like, so what about the other stuff? Like, that didn't go away. That doesn't mean that, because you don't have COVID, now we can just have casual sex. Like, we don't have to protect ourselves. I think that's what happened and made Atlanta have that such high rate, But AIDS is still a thing. AIDS is very much a thing. I'm actually on a foundation that builds orphanages for children in Africa that do not have any parents. And that is because over there, they don't have proper medication. And number two, if the wife gets it, then the husband gets it. Then the child has no parents. So it's such a big epidemic over there that there are so many children that do not have parents. Over here, it's not so much a thing because we have so many drugs now to be able to treat it. The drugs that my uncle started off with are not, he doesn't have to take as many. So now he has like one drug that he gets an injection every 3 months, as opposed to taking 60 different pills each day.
And is it because we're not really talking about it as we did years ago about the importance of safe sex? Because everyone is making it seem that, these diseases are extinct. And I was just so confused as to why there's a high rate of HIV in a city that I think is educated enough to know to protect themselves. So this is not like we're in a third world country that we don't know that there's condoms protect you, especially because this is the thing. If people are not getting tested for it, because I know when I go for my yearly checkups, my doctor does ask me, do you want an HIV/AIDS test? And I always say yes, because why wouldn't I have nothing to fear, right? I have nothing to fear. But I think a lot of people are not testing for it, and therefore they might be spreading it and not even know that they're spreading it.
It's exactly what you said. It's out of sight, out of mind. We're not talking about it. It's out of sight, out of mind. It didn't go away. It's just that we don't talk about it anymore because there's so many things to talk about. There's so many more diseases right now. What is the hot topic? It's COVID. It's not all the other things that are killing us. There's plenty of other things that are killing us right now. And now they're trying to bring it back into the media because it's going to get out of control again. And it's almost as if people just think we're invincible. We're not invincible, people.
And you know what's insane? Atlanta is the third highest city that has new cases of HIV/AIDS. And I was like, well, what's number one and what's number two? I
said the same thing. I was like, so why are we zoning in on number 3? Why aren't we going on number 1?
Because I need to know what city that is.
Yeah. And I said, so we avoid that at all costs. I'm like, you're from where? I'm not dating you.
You know what? You know what's so sad? It's just that the thing that's sad is like we're thinking we're invincible. We think as humans we're invincible. Nothing's gonna touch us. Oh, we're in the United States. There's medicine for everything. So if something happens, but it's not. You really have to meet the people who's actually going through the struggle. You actually have to sit with people that has like, autoimmune diseases like you or HIV to know that it's not as simple as you think. It's just popping a pill, because you're going to be popping a pill for the rest of your life. Do you understand what I mean? So if you could prevent something, why put yourself in a situation in being so careless to think that, oh, it's a thing. It's whatever. If I get it, there's pills, because it's more than just popping pills, right? Like you having lupus, even though there's medication that manages your disease state, it's a mindset, right? What do you tell people that have to deal with this mindset? Since you're a motivational speaker, how do you talk to people? Because not everyone has your strength, right? Some people might say, woe is me. What do you tell these people to encourage them to let them know like their life is not over?
There's plenty of things. The first thing is just to piggyback on what we were just talking about with HIV. The funny thing is when people contact me and say, oh my God, I have lupus, am I going to die? And I have to kind of clap back and say, well, it's not HIV. And the response that I get from them freaking out, I'm like, well, how come you guys are freaking out thinking that you're going to die about this, but you're not freaking out about dying with HIV? I mean, that's still a thing. So you're thinking that lupus is worse than HIV. It's not. And the first thing I tell them is, unfortunately, honey, I don't know how you're going to die, but you are going to die. Nobody said that you're going to die from this. It's all about how you want to fight. And like you said, everything isn't just about taking a pill. Everybody can cure themselves in different ways. It's not just taking pills. It's also your mindset. It's what you eat. It's what you do. Taking a pill does not cure everything. I know plenty of healthy people that are walking around sick. You know why? Because they're sick mentally. They're not happy mentally. Okay. And I can't see that. Lupus is an invisible disease. So you're going to have to fight 24/7 because lupus does not have any days off. None. And if you're not built for that, that's okay. We can build you up to that. But I guarantee you, you can live a great life as long as you have a great mindset. And I know it's not as simple as what I just said. I don't wake up spitting rainbows every morning. Some mornings I wake up and I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. Let me go back and we'll reset and maybe I'll do it. And then you just have to keep going. You have to have a strong mind and you can build up to it. It's not the next thing you're just going to snap like that, but we can go through the process. I try to show people on all of my social media, the good, bad, and ugly. And by that, I mean, you may see me in a hospital bed. The next day I sign myself out and I'm having a good time with my family because I value my family. There's a lot of people that are walking around here that are alive, but they died a long time ago. Do you want to be like that? I don't.
No.
There's plenty of light. You're here for a reason and we're going to fight. And I show people we do this together. I can be happy-go-lucky and I will break it down to you like today, I don't feel like myself because of this. There are times where I don't want to share, but I know that the difference is when my mom had lupus, there was not the internet. You really did feel alone because you could not connect with so many other people. I connect with people in Australia, in China, anywhere because of this beautiful platform. There's somebody out there going through it and I can actually see it. Things are better now in that sense, but you're just going to have to fight.
Okay. So you said this mindset. You also mentioned food. Is there specific foods that causes flare-ups? Is everybody different, or there are specific foods that causes a flare-up when you have lupus?
There are specific foods, generally speaking. It's almost like if somebody has celiac disease, and celiac disease is also an autoimmune disease. You can't have gluten. You can't have this. You can't have that. But it is different to everyone. The first thing I tried to approach it once I was diagnosed, I was like, okay, I'm not going to eat the junk food that my mom ate. She ate fried chicken. She used to have Fun Dip, and which was basically sugar that looked purple. Yeah, it was like sugar. We had big ghetto cases of Fun Dip, and I was just like, Mom, why are we doing this? And she's like, shut up. It makes me happy. I'm like, okay, I get that. Change your diet. But then I went completely the opposite direction. I went to this lady who was completely vegan. She's like, you can't have sugar. You can't have anything that's fried. You can't have this and that. And I looked at her and I'm like, but you look sick. I was like, how come you're eating so healthy, but you look sick? This lady was like 30, but she looked like she was 60 and she was like maybe 80 pounds soaking wet. And this isn't right. No. So you just have to do everything in moderation. Yes, there are people that are very adamant about eliminating certain things. I tell people, make a food diary. Why? Because if you put today, I ate this, and this. Start off, putting that down. Then the next day, add on to what you did yesterday. How did it make you feel? How did you feel? So that you can track what you're eating. Certain things, and it's proven, unfortunately, the medication that I'm given, and you give it to someone who is not Black or Filipino or whatever, everything affects us differently. So tailor it to you. And then that way you can see, okay, I ate this and I did not feel good. And also, what did you do? Put in your food, your activities, what you drank, chart it out, because that's the best way for you to be able to see it and prove it. But otherwise, just saying, you know what, eliminate all of this. Of course, don't go out and living your 600-pound life dream of having a bucket of chicken every day. That is not good at all, whether you have a disease or not. You just have to be smart about it. I do not advise having fast food all the time. I actually don't even eat fast food. I stopped eating fast food because of the way it made me feel. I felt sluggish. I was gaining weight. It was not good for me. There are some people that just like swear by certain things. So there is a diet, and I say work with a nutritionist once you do get a chance to chart it out and see, or if you can't see it for yourself, work with one. Always incorporate a nutritionist into all of your specialists. And also, see your primary care doctor. Make sure you stay on top of your labs, your blood work. So it's all about putting in the work. I equate it to being a project manager. You're the project manager of your body. You have these other people that work for you. You're going to delegate. I need you to stay on top of my blood work. So you need a hematologist, an oncologist. As soon as I said that to people, they're like, oh my God, is it cancer? No, an oncologist doesn't treat just cancer. They study blood. And most people don't look up what the definition of these doctors, what they actually mean. Like I'm saying this to you, or I say this to anybody regularly that isn't sick, they're just going to start like freaking out. And I have to educate them like, no, you should have this because you should also have a dermatologist because lupus affects the skin. You want to make sure you stay on top of that. See a dermatologist at least year round. But incorporating all the things that you need to do, there's going to have to be some work on your part, because if not, medical doctors are not God. They may miss something.
So
you want your life in those hands.
Is autoimmune disease is transferable? Meaning like the things that you just said, if I had MS, would you say the same things to me? If I had HIV, would you say the same thing to me? If I had, celiac disease, would you say the same thing with me? Is it transferable because it's autoimmune? It's the same, it's not the same disease, but because it's like in the same state of like category, autoimmune. Just so if anyone else is watching that has another autoimmune disease but doesn't have lupus, is it transferable?
Yes, you can take it across various different diseases because lupus mimics everything. Because when you start looking up things and you're putting it in WebMD and you're trying to freak yourself out, you'll be like, oh my God, I have this. Oh my God, I have this. And no, you actually have lupus, because lupus likes to act like this, and this. Lupus likes to duplicate itself. So when I talk to people who have MS, we almost have the same struggles. It's just that MS focuses more on neurological issues rather than the other things that happen. It doesn't usually attack your heart. Lupus will attack your heart. Lupus likes organs. It'll attack your kidneys. It'll attack your heart. It'll attack your lungs. Whereas MS goes straight for your brain.
Basically, neurologically, like your joints.
Yes.
Right?
Your joints and your cognitive function, you're sitting there and all of a sudden you're shaking, or you walk and then your leg goes out. That's happened to me, but that happens a lot to people with MS. So you want to make sure that you can distinguish it, because sometimes when people are going through a diagnosis, they'll say, well, we're not sure if you have MS or if you have lupus, because there's also one form of lupus called lupus CNS, and that refers to the brain form of lupus.
So then if I had MS, what doctor would I go to?
You would still go to a rheumatologist.
Okay, so a rheumatologist is the specialist that deals with autoimmune disease.
You would also incorporate a neurologist, but you still have to have a rheumatologist to help with the rheumatic factor of what kind of treatment you're going to have. So they would prescribe certain things, and they also treat you like a cancer patient when you have MS and lupus. So I've been on chemotherapy for 7 years. And the hardest thing for me mentally is when I go into a cancer center and they come around, they usually have people that, like to ask questions and cheer you up and stuff. And they always come by, so what kind of cancer do you have? And I'm like, oh, I don't have cancer. And even then they're like, well, why are you here? Because they treat some autoimmune diseases like cancer patients. So the type of chemo that I was on was for lymphoma and leukemia. And I go through the same struggle.
Does it actually work? I mean,
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm here, but it didn't cure it.
Is it actually off-label, what they're doing? Or it's part of the FDA, it's on label?
Yep, everything is what they're doing right now. They didn't do that back then because they didn't know that it could actually help. And there's a new type of chemo called CAR T cell therapy, which is specifically for MS and lupus patients, which seems to be remarkable right now, where they're trying to implement it, where it's putting it into remission. Now, there are people that do go into remission, which just basically means same thing as cancer. You don't have the symptoms, you're good for a little bit, but it could pop up again. It doesn't mean you're cured, you're just in remission, but you still have to stay up on top of everything.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about family life. You are married, you do have a husband. Like, for how does that work with the relationship? Like,
it's very
just explain it to
sometimes.
me, because it must be very hard to have a partner you're married to. It takes a different person to be married. You have to be married to like a it's not a guy. I don't know how to explain it. He has to take his vows seriously. Let's put it that way.
Yes, we both do.
No. But some weak-minded person might be like, "You have lupus now? Oh no, I'm not dealing with this. Like, okay, I'm gonna file for divorce."
And there has been.
I mean?
Yes. No. I mean, when I say we both do, it's like I've tried to push him away so many times to basically save myself from being hurt, possibly, for him running off. Because my father, I love him dearly, but when he was with my mother, he wasn't the greatest person. And with that being said, I mean, they did get a divorce and she was going through the struggle. And I don't necessarily think that someone should stay with someone out of pity. If you don't love that person, please just leave. And for my husband and I, he already saw my mother, and I had already educated him like I could have it. I let him know beforehand, and he has said it I've interviewed him on one of my podcasts, that I already knew you were probably going to get it. I mean, I watched you and I saw the things and I saw your mother, and that didn't really make me want to leave you. I love you for you. But then there are other people that are like you just said, I don't want to deal with that. I didn't get married to go through a harder struggle, because it's not for the weak. It absolutely is not. And there will be times when you're just like, lupus or any sickness, even if you have cancer, you're going to be humbled real quick. Things that you're like, I can't control this. I can't control. I've had times where it was like I couldn't control my bladder. I was having such immense pain, and it'll be like, oh my God, I don't know how to tell them that. I don't want them to see this. It's almost like, okay, when you have a kid, everybody sees all your stuff. You can't control anything. You're pushing. All right, it's that one time, or each time you have a child. But when you have a disease, that happens often, and it's not something that you're prepared for. You're prepared because people tell you what's going to happen when you have a baby. But at any point in time, this could happen, and you can't stop it. You can't control it. You can try, but you really can't. So that's where I say you have to have a strong mind, because yes, at the end of the day, real quick, going to the hospital and having him see everything that's happening to me, even though I want him there to hold my hand, half the time I'm like, can you please get out? I don't want you to see this. I don't want you to see what's about to happen. Oh my God. And I'm embarrassed. And it's hard, because then I would have times where I would cry and be like, you're just going to leave me just like my dad did my mom, and blah, 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 and push that on him. Where do I really want that? I'm scared for it to happen, but why am I trying to make it happen?
Why are you manifesting
for
it,
him,
basically?
Yes. I'm like, if you don't want it to happen, then why do you keep trying to make it happen? Let's not make this a thing.
But you talked about
I applaud him for being there, though. Mm-hmm.
Well, I applaud him too, and like you said, it's both ways too, because you don't have to say either. So you're right, and you don't have to like, your vows is a two-way street. So I didn't mean to say like,
No.
I yeah. But okay, so you mentioned pregnancy. Did you have were you carrying your babies and had lupus at the same time?
My last one. The first two, because I got pregnant when I was young. I had my son when I got pregnant when I was 16, but I had him when I was 17. And then my daughter, I had her when I was 20. And then my last son, I had him when I was 27. Now, prior to me having him, even though the first to the last is about 10 years, I had several miscarriages, and I couldn't understand why. And I was like, wait, I got pregnant easy with the first two. And I just kept having miscarriage after miscarriage. I had 4. The one before my last son, I carried up until I was about 6 months, and the baby had I had a cyst burst on the baby, and the baby's heart stopped beating. So I had to get that removed. So that was like another thing I had to go through. But at that time, they weren't thinking about that. I wasn't diagnosed then either. So it was like, okay, what's happening? What's happening? So now that I'm looking at everything from an aerial view of looking back, that's probably when I had lupus. And it also started my endometriosis journey. So I have several different autoimmune diseases. Endometriosis is an autoimmune disease. Once you get lupus, lupus likes to have a whole gang with her. She doesn't like to roll alone. She likes to have other people to make sure she can keep roughing you up. And so endometriosis happened.
So what are all the autoimmune diseases you have? So one is endometriosis.
Endometriosis. Yes, endometriosis, which, it affects, when people say bad periods, this is like bad periods on steroids.
Like heavy bleeding, like horrible bleeding.
Heavy bleeding,
and
horrible pain. Yes.
Yes.
Horrible pain. So it's the worst. When people used to say that before, and I was ignorant to it too, I didn't know what endometriosis was. And I knew that there were girls that would be at my job and be like, oh, they called out because they had a bad period. And I'm like, bad period? Like, what's that? At a young age, I'm like, oh my God, she's not womaning right now. And I feel bad for even thinking that, because now that I went through it and I no longer have a baby maker, I had a full hysterectomy because I just couldn't. So I have endometriosis, rheumatoid arthritis, systemic scleroderma, vasculitis, interstitial lung disease, Sjögren's syndrome, Raynaud's. I'm trying to do this with my fingers because I'll forget all of them. Crest syndrome, IBS. Trying to make sure I don't forget about anything else. There's a lot on my chart. Let's just say we have that for right now.
But it's like 10 fingers. At least.
Yeah. Yes.
So mentally, what is the thing that you say to yourself to keep going? Like, because there's people that don't even have close to the negative stuff. It's not even negative. I want to put that word out there. It was a challenge. It was a challenge that God gave you because he knew that you were going to try instead of giving up. So I want to put a positive spin into it. What is it about your mindset that keeps you getting up every single morning and doing this all over again?
Because I turned my pain into passion. My passion is helping people. And it brought me so much joy to know that I could help my mom and put a smile on her face. I was trying to do everything that I can. So I do that now by trying to make sure that my kids are happy, that everybody else who's going through the struggle, they can see a light at the end of the tunnel. They can see that, this could be ugly, but it also could be beautiful, that life is beautiful, and appreciating life. I go through things and I just think of, somebody else could always have it worse in any situation. And I don't want to spin it just like that, but I want to shine through and show that it cannot take me. Lupus and everything else that I have do not define me. What defines me is my strength and overcoming and making sure that if I touch someone and inspire someone to keep going, then for me, my life is complete. The way I grew up, there was a little bit of time that I resented the fact that I grew up the way that I did, and that I had to grow up too fast, that I had to witness all this stuff, and why me? And I totally changed that and said, you know what? I have a higher purpose. My purpose here is to motivate people, to inspire people, to appreciate life, because my mom and grandmother, they can't do it anymore. And I saw them suffer alone. I saw them just give up. And I said, I can't let other people give up on my watch. I think about all the people who have been parents, like Trayvon Martin's mother. She's an advocate now. Do you think that was her dream? No, she was just given this issue and turned it into something beautiful to help other people so that they don't have to go through that. And that's what I think of when I go through that. Now that I was a little soldier going through war, I'm still going through war, but I feel as though I'm a captain now and I can have other people and help them become a soldier, because this is war every day. Either you're going to take the war outward or inward. And a lot of people do it inward, meaning they don't want to talk about it. So internally, they're fighting with themselves. That's really not going to solve anything. So I take the fight outside. I let people know. I don't care. I'll shout it from the rooftops. I have lupus. I have this. I have this. But you know what? If you go on any of my pages, you can see that I am happy with my kids, that I'm helping people all the time. My help does not just go with lupus. I volunteer all the time. I make sure my kids do. I want to have a beautiful life, and you can too. And there is the ugly side, but I believe that truly I'm here to help people, and I embrace it.
That's why, Mika, I had you come here so I could give you your flowers. I think you're an amazing soul, and I know there's a purpose. I know I don't want you going through this, but your positive voice and will help, and I know has helped so many people just find inspiration in knowing that their life is not over with lupus. And that's why I wanted you to come on the show, because we're going through so much things, and it's great hearing an inspirational speaker like you go through their journey and find a positive spin into why, instead of saying why me, try. I love that. Why me? No, it's not why me, it's try me, meaning that you go in there.
Yes.
You might not get the best of news, but you're going to find a way to push through, because you don't know when you're going to die, right? Like someone could get into a
No.
car accident and you're still here, right? So it's what you do with your life. It's what legacy you leave behind, to make sure that other people understand that, it's not woe is me. It's not woe is
Yes.
me. So please, first of all, give everyone your handle so they can find you, because you're also a motivational speaker. So anyone out
Yes.
there that wants you to come and speak, give out all your information so they can find you, including the audience.
Yes. So if you are on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, it's at Pretty Sick Lupus Chick. And that's the word pretty, sick, lupus, Lupus, chick, CHICK. Or if you can go on my website, and that's www.prettysicklupuscheck. Now, this one is without a K.com. But you can pull up Shemekka Harty. I go by Mika. It's just easier that way because people always call me Tamika. But if you just put in Shemekka Harty, I will pop right up. I do a lot of motivational speaking, patient advocacy. I work with various charities. I'm more than happy to come out. I make my day. It truly does. So please, I look forward to hearing from any of you, especially if you have any questions. On my Instagram, I have a lot of informational little just short bits where it's like what you can do. Just because you're sick, you can still work. I work remotely. Just more informational things on your everyday life that I want to make sure you have too.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on. I'm proud of you, sis. I'm so proud that you came and did this interview. Definitely, May is Lupus Awareness Month. If there's any groups out there that you can find to support you, please join those groups, because I don't want anyone going through anything alone. You need the support. Sometimes when you go through things alone, sometimes you get sucked into more depression because you just feel like it's only you going through this. But when you join groups, you find comfort that other people are going through this, and you get different ideas, and you get different ways of just dealing with the challenges, and you get new information constantly all the time. Please, everyone, please reach out to Shemekka, aka Mika Harty. She is definitely an expert in the lupus community, and if you need any help, she's definitely kind enough to reach out to you and help you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'm proud of you, sis, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.